Hey guys, Dwayne here. Wanted to talk a little bit about our ex, their new relationships, and interaction with our kids. It's kind of a tough one because it brings up a lot of emotions and anxiety and anger and all that stuff. And if you listen to some of my other videos, you know for the most part that hasn't been an issue, although there were a couple of times early on where she has planned to introduce some people to the kids, from what I was told, and it just didn't work out. And it was one of those things I always was worried about. You know, it's like, well, who is going to be having an influence, on my kids? What are they going to be like? How does it play out, and all that stuff. And as fate would have it, in my particular situation, I'm the only one who's actually in a serious relationship. As you guys know, I've been dating someone for 3 years. I'm taking it incredibly slow just because of what I've been through and what she's been through. So it's just one of those things where there's nothing wrong with taking it slow. But I'm not talking about dating on this one or relationships. I'm talking about how to deal with when your ex is starting to introduce new people to your kids. And basically this is going to be a similar concept to what I've talked about before. And honestly, there's nothing you can do about it. You don't have any say in it. You don't have any recourse unless something happens. And for the most part, that's not going to be the case. I mean, there might be some drama associated with it, but for the most part, it's probably not going to be anything criminal. So there's nothing you can really do about it. And it kind of rolls into that black hole thinking that I've talked about before, where you really need to not spend a lot of time thinking about it, because nothing good is going to come out of it. If you're fortunate, maybe if it's a serious relationship, or even semi long term or whatever, maybe the person's nice. Maybe you can interact with them in a positive way, and maybe they will calm your ex down. Maybe they'll make them less inclined to focus on you or come after or try to create drama, or do other things. Now, if that's not the case and they're just as toxic as your ex, then you implement the same methodologies I've talked about before. The hybrid no contact, the gray rock. Unfortunately, if you have kids like we're talking about, no contact isn't really an option. So you're stuck with hybrid no contact, and then when you're around the person, gray rocking as much as possible so that they are unable to get a reaction from you, because that's absolutely what you don't want to have happen. But see, here's the deal though. It's really tough and it's going to hurt, because as soon as there's this other person involved, it's crazy because you have these mixed emotions, right? Even if, we talked about this the other day, even if the person is toxic and that they have no place in your life, you're still emotionally connected to them. And the fact that they move on, especially if they do it quickly, makes you feel like you mean absolutely nothing or meant nothing, which unfortunately that's really the case, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, that person used you for supply, used you for everything they could, and whenever you were no longer a resource, they didn't have anything to do with you. And typically it's two reasons. They come up with they decide that you don't serve a purpose anymore, and that they move on to someone else. They found something else that's better supply, or better fits their needs, and they discard you. Or you set boundaries and they don't like that, so it's the same net effect. So when you get to that point, you're going to grapple with that, right? And like I said, as soon as they are involved in another relationship, it's going to complicate things significantly because, it's going to drive that reality, which you're still struggling with, into your head and be right straight front up front and, front and center. That's what I'm trying to say. It'll be front and center. Now, the other issue with this is typically they're going to flaunt it. They will parade this person as much as they possibly can. It'll be through social media, it'll be in person, it'll be at events, anywhere to where they can just basically demonstrate or show that they've moved on, they've replaced you with a better, faster, stronger model, and, rub it in. And again, that's critical where, if you are face to face with it, is to gray rock it and just, try to think of it as some other person, not your ex. And just be as calm and nonchalant about it. Don't be snarky, don't act weird, right? I mean, which is tough because, whenever you're really stressed, you could do something where you just act a little, maybe a little more immature or something. And it's just, you've got to focus on that to where you don't fall into that trap. Okay, so whenever you're not dealing with it face to face, so what do? Well, you go back to what I was talking about in other videos, and if I can link to one, I'll link to it up there. And I'm kind of cold, that's why I'm like nearly shivering. You have to think of everything that's happening with your ex and your kids and their new relationship as a black hole. It's like it's on the other side of a wall, and out of sight, out of mind. And don't dwell on it. Don't ask questions about it. Don't, look for it on Facebook. If you have people who feel the whatever reason to say, oh, Billy has a great new girlfriend, and oh, she's so young and attractive, and a great job, or whatever, right? I mean, it's like I still, it surprises me to this day why people think that that's a valid thing to do. I mean, it's like, I mean, basically they're surrogates, but for your ex, but it's like, seriously, why would someone do that? And I've had the same thing happen, not so much with her dating, because like I said, she doesn't really, date. And if she is doing it, she's doing it incredibly covertly, which I'm grateful for. There are times that the kids will say that they've met new people, they've randomly run into people, which, I mean, I know that's, the likelihood that that's just a random meeting is pretty remote. But even still, I mean, it's something that doesn't come up. And I don't really ask about it because nothing good would come out of it. Okay, so for instance, let me tell you this. Okay, so I think I'm doing pretty good on this. I mean, I know sometimes I try to connect with a little bit of more of the emotions on this, primarily to try to connect back with the way I felt years ago. But bottom line is, for the most part, I'm doing pretty good. Right? Things are going pretty good. There are some things I'm stressed about. There's some things I'm frustrated about. We talked about those. But primarily at the end of the day, I'm really grateful for where I'm at. I'm fundamentally pretty happy about, where I'm at. I mean, things could be better, and things continue to get better. But I'll tell you, if someone, told me today that she has this great new boyfriend or something like that, I would be lying to say that it would not have any impact on me, right? It's just human nature, and I think that that's the case. I mean, I think even if we get over this and 10 years down the road, if we hear something about the ex doing really good, we're probably still going to have a really hard time going, oh, wow, that's really great. I'm really happy for them. I mean, that's probably not what's going to happen. That's not what is going to happen. Especially as the daily traumas, and the daily issues continue to rise, and it turns in from weeks to months to years, and you're dealing with issues with your kids, and you're dealing with emotional problems with your kids, and you're dealing with financial problems with yourself and everything, it's really going to be tough to be able to let all that go and be okay. So what my point is that you need to, going back to what I was talking about, you need to look at the situation as that it doesn't exist. and focus on yourself and focus on your kids. Whatever happens at the other house is irrelevant, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because even if you have a problem with it, if you've already tried this, and maybe you haven't, but if you've already tried to communicate with your ex to work on some issue that's happening over at their house, you already know it doesn't work. I don't think any of us have ever had an opportunity to have a reasonable conversation, or maybe even not either or, a non-reasonable and a reasonable conversation about a situation pertaining to the care and parenting of our kids that they've actually said, oh, wow, that's a really good point. It's not going to happen. So it's absolutely not going to happen if you try to tell them, or say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this person being around my kids. Well, you have no choice. When it's their time, unless it's somehow written into some court order, they can take the kids wherever they want. They can do whatever they want. They can meet whoever they want. I mean, it's like there's really not a whole heck of a lot you're going to be able to do. So focusing your time and energy on that does nothing other than, one, it gives them supply and fuel, knowing that they can still manipulate your emotions. And you can rest assured that they're going to go back to the other person and complain about how bad you are and how crazy and how controlling. See, I told you she's controlling. Look, she can't even move on. I've moved on. You can think of the different scenarios through your head on how this would play out. And it doesn't serve any purpose, guys. It doesn't. You need to take that energy, turn it in on creating your own environment, working on yourself, and building the relationship with your kids, because you're gonna need that energy to do that, right? Because there's gonna be issues that are gonna keep cropping up, and you need to be at your best. At your best, you need to be as calm and grounded as you possibly can, so that you can deal with it, so that you can be there for your kids, so that you can mitigate the damage that the narcissist ex does to them. That's what's important. All this other stuff, it's irrelevant. And if you think that they're happy with the other person, they might appear it, they might be faking it right now, but it's all an illusion. You've lived through the illusion. You know it. Excuse me, So of course, it's a love bombing stage. It's the idolization stage. They're going to be, pretending and portraying that everything's wonderful. And they're going to be portraying that she or he will be portraying that they're the victim of your abuse. So if you find yourself in this situation, and guys, I get that it's hard, and I get it's going to hurt. It's going to feel like they're stabbing you in the heart again. It's just part of their process. It's part of their control mechanism. And they're just looking for their own source of supply. So if they discard you and find someone else, and that person is basically treating them like a rock star, so to speak, and making them feel like $1 million and giving them all the supply and attention that they need, they're done with you, and wasting your energy focusing on what they're doing and what's happening when your kids are over there is counterproductive, guys. It really is, And I would say if your kids are telling you about it, most people aren't saying that it's the kids, but I know my kids have a tendency to tell me what's going on sometimes. It's just like, I don't want to hear it. I don't say that to them, but I mean, it's just like you need to just focus on your own environment. I mean, unless they are telling you something, that they're being physically abused, or something serious is going on where it's life-threatening that you don't have a choice but to do something on, then it's irrelevant. It's parallel parenting, or counter-parenting, as someone else called it the other day. And you just focus your energy and your time on what you have going on, what you're working on, the relationship that you're building with the kids, trying to keep that foundation as stable as possible. And that's critical, because I'll tell you guys, last week was kind of a tough week for me. I had an interaction with my son that wasn't really great because I was super stressed, and we went down a path that just wasn't really healthy or productive. I mean, we've recovered from it, but I allowed myself to get a little more run down and overwhelmed by not necessarily stuff with the ex, but just things in general, that I lost sight of keeping that foundation solid. And that's what's really important. And hey, we slip up sometimes. I slip up, you're gonna slip up. It's how, and when you slip up, it's how you take a step back, how you recover, how you acknowledge you're part of it, and move on. All right, so I hope this video helps. Like I said, a lot of comments have been coming in about this, so I wanted to address this again. If you want to add something in the conversation, please do that in the comments below. If you like this channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. All that stuff helps the channel, and I will talk to you guys on the next video.